Nalazimo se na LoginEKO parceli gde...
We're on a LoginEKO field where we grow sunflower at our northern location. This is the first operation after sowing, interrow cultivation, basically cultivating between the rows.
Ako me pitate kad je pravi moment da...
If you ask me when the right moment is to enter the field at LoginEKO, we'd say as early as possible. When it comes to weed control, we are always in a hurry. Simply because we're not allowed to use herbicides, and from our experience, the right time for the first interrow cultivation pass is when the sunflowers are at the 2 to 4 leaf stage.
Sad je on možda malo prerastao zato što je u nekoj fazi.
Right now it's maybe a bit past that because it's around 6 true leaves, 3 pairs of true leaves, but it's fine. Everything is still under control. This field is 43 hectares. And why did we choose this field? Because here we're running reduced tillage, we don't plow. It's an internal test for us. And those crop residues you see on the surface, that's exactly because of reduced tillage. We do not invert the soil and there's no plowing.
Posljedica redukovane obrade zemljišta, znači ne prevrćemo plasticu i nema oranja. Jari usevi su generalno mnogo osjetljiviji na korove u tim.
Spring crops are generally much more sensitive to weeds in the early growth stages, and some kind of crop care, especially weed control, is simply necessary. With winter crops, you can already suppress a lot of weeds just with crop rotation and with good timing in seedbed preparation and sowing. With spring crops, that's much harder. As for the weed spectrum on this field, as you can see, the most common one is foxtail grass. Along with that, we also have lamb's quarters, cocklebur, flower of an hour, and other weeds.
Naša farma se prostire u Vojvodini na 2 veće lokacije.
Our farm is spread across 2 bigger locations. We divide them into north and south. In 2025 at LoginEKO, we have a total of 915 hectares sown to sunflower. Out of that, 400 hectares are on the northern location and the rest is in the southern location.
To je jako zanimljivo, evo, po pitanju pada.
And here's something interesting with rainfall. The northern location managed to sow between April 15th and 24th because there was no rain then. But at the same time, in the south, we got a lot of rain and fieldwork shifted a bit.
Međuredna kultivacija ili jednostavno špart. Interrow cultivation is a very important crop care operation for all wide row spring crops, including sunflower. Today, we are on one of our biggest fields at our southern location, about 114 hectares, sown with sunflower on April 15th. Unlike our colleagues in the north, we got twice as much rain. And it's not just the total amount. 64 millimeters might not sound like a lot. It's more about the timing of that rainfall. That's why we're a bit late with the first interrow cultivation pass. Nastavljamo sa špartanjem. Evo nas sada na sasvim... We continue with interrow cultivation. Now we're on a completely different field at our south location. Conditions here are very different from some of our other fields and even more different from the northern fields. We can see our sunflowers are between the first and second pair of true leaves, so 4 leaves total, and it's quite short and weak for this stage. Low temperatures don't suit sunflower, but weeds don't mind them at all. And we have a lot of weeds on this field. We've got pressure from wild mustard, European dewberry, knotweed, Canada thistle, and literally this field is like a whole herbarium. The previous crop was wheat, and it didn't manage to prevent the development of weeds well enough. And now, because of heavy rainfall and the frequent rains, the weeds are now getting ahead of our sunflowers.
Praktično je naš suncokret u zaostatku za korovima.
Ako kažemo i pričamo o tome kako kiša utiče na špartanje,
If we talk about how rain affects inter-row cultivation, this is exactly it. Because what happened in the north? After sowing and after the sunflower emerged, we got rain later on, and I have to say it was badly needed. 30 liters fell after emergence. That's why in the north we didn't start interrow cultivation on time, why we didn't go in at the 2 to 4 leaf stage, but we're doing it now when it's, for example, at the 6 leaf stage.
radimo sad kad je u fazi šestog lista, na primjer.
In our production model, the optimal time to start interrow cultivation, the first pass, is at the 2 to 4 leaf stage. Here at our southern location, sunflower is at 4 to 6 leaves, so it has moved slightly past the optimal stage for the first interrow cultivation pass. But thanks to good crop rotation, peas, oats, and now sunflower, we can see this field doesn't have such serious weed problems. So, with biological, agrobiological methods, we've brought the field to a point where weed control isn't a big challenge.
Da nemamo veliki izazov sa kontrolom korova. U organskoj proizvodnji suncokreta.
In organic sunflower, and it's similar in conventional production too, if you rely on mechanical weed control, meaning inter-row cultivation, the critical weed moment is the 8-leaf stage. In this part of the field, the soil is a bit lighter in texture. This is where we started sowing. Our sunflowers are already at V8, 8 developed leaves. And look at this carpet of weeds. If we don't solve this in the next few days, we'll have serious yield loss. Yield loss can easily go over 50%, and right now in May, we're fighting to keep yield losses below 5% instead of letting them go above 50%.
Manji od 5 ili možda veći od 50%.
Na ovoj parceli nam trenutno rade 2 špartača. Svaki ima svoje...
On this field, we currently have 2 interrow cultivators working. Each has its pros and cons, but we try to set them up as well as possible to do what we need. Yes, their main job is to control weeds between the rows, but also to get as close to the crop row as possible, meaning to keep the protective zone as narrow as we can.
Da što bliže priđemo redu, odnosno da nam ta zaštitna zona...
We push to get as close to sunflower as possible without damaging it. Of course, we can't expect cultivators to remove every weed in the field. So, in the first pass, while weeds are small, we try to eliminate as many as possible. Later, on the second or even the third pass, we start hilling up the soil toward the row. Hilling up is especially important right in the crop row zone, where weeds remain because we can't cultivate through the plants.
Zoni reda gde nam korov ostane, pošto ne možemo da ga špartamo. Nešto više o podešavanjima za ovaj tip špartača će nam...
Robert will tell us a bit more about the setup of this cultivator. I know for sure our tractor drivers enjoy running this Einböck cultivator the most. Robert, will you come over?
Hi.
Hi, Robert. Can you tell us a bit more about this Einböck Chopstar interrow cultivator?
Sure. We like this one the most because adjustments are simple, tool-free, no wrench, and you can easily set the working depth right here.
Can you show us?
Yes, here's how it works. Tool-free adjustment with one hand. In just a couple of hand moves, depth goes up or down. This cultivator has teens, and for this first pass, we installed these crop protection shields so we don't bury the sunflowers. We run about 8 to 10 kilometers per hour, depending on the sunflower, so...
And what would you say sets this one apart from other cultivators?
The simple adjustment, and it also has these finger weeder stars, as we call them. We use them in the second pass once the sunflower is bigger, and they pull weeds out of the row as much as they can. They mount right here.
We're not using them today because sunflower is still at a stage where those finger weeder stars could do more harm, but in the next inter-row cultivation pass, we'll install them.
Danas radimo sa vrlo neobičajenim špartačem.
Today we're also working with a very unusual cultivator for our conditions, an original Hungarian design, the BUSA Rotor. It's an inter-row cultivator that, instead of traditional duckfoot tines or knives, uses these spirals. By moving soil, they suppress weeds extremely well. They pull weeds out, they don't cut them. They pull them, grind them, and press them under the soil surface. In that way, they increase organic matter in our soil, which is always welcome in organic production. Today we're running 7 kilometers per hour, and the total protective zone is 8 centimeters. What's important is that the rotors work away from the crop row, so they don't damage the sunflowers. They also do a light hilling up toward the row, covering tiny weeds with soil so they can't get established and compete with the crop.
Da se razvije I da pravi konkurenciju našem usevu. Naš kultivator, osim što odlično suzbija korove I
This cultivator, besides suppressing weeds and getting very close to the plants without damaging them, also breaks the crust very well. On this field, for our local conditions, we don't really have a strong crust. And why not? Just look at how much oat residue we have from last year. Why do we say that in organic production we apply almost all the elements of regenerative farming? Because we return all crop residues back to the soil. They stay mainly in the shallow surface layer, and that's how we protect soil health. Among other things, we reduce crusting problems on big open fields. We also reduce erosion and so on.
Takođe smanjujemo problem erozije I tako dalje. Kad radimo međurednu kultivaciju suncokreta,
When we do inter-row cultivation in sunflower and other wide-row spring crops, we try to work as shallow as possible so we don't wake up weed seeds from deeper layers.
još bitnije od same dubine rada je širina zaštitne zone.
Even more important than depth is the width of the protective zone, the width of the area we actually work on.
Mehaničke povrede I ne možemo da primenimo mehaničke mere koje podrazumevaju obradu cele.
Sunflower is very sensitive to mechanical injury, so we can't work the whole surface. We work strictly between the rows, avoiding contact with the plants. Our protective zone in the first inter-row cultivation pass is about 6 to 8 centimeters. depending on crop condition, soil condition, and which cultivator we use.
Konkretno sa špartačem koji danas koristimo možemo...
With the cultivator we're using today, we can come very close to the plants without damaging the root system. At this stage, sunflower roots grow downward first. They're not spreading wide yet, so we try to get as close as possible. And after that, sunflower will take care of the rest. Sunflower releases root exudates, chemicals from the root system that have a phytotoxic effect on a good part of the weeds. Not all of them, but a lot of them. That's why sunflower is a very competitive crop against weeds here in our conditions.
I na taj način suncokret je vrlo konkurentna biljka korovskoj vegetaciji u Vojvodini. Za špartanje 114 hektara ovdje smo potrošili puna 2.
For interrow cultivation on 114 hectares, we spent a full 2 days. On day 1, we had 2 cultivators, 2 tractors running. Today, only 1 is left. Get the whole job done fast, on time, and with quality in that critical weed control window. On top of that, tractor guidance lets us work more precisely, faster, and for longer compared to conventional growers who don't have that equipment.
Konvencionalnih proizvođača koji nemaju takvu opremu. Ukoliko ove godine imate parcelu sertifikovanu...
If this year you have a certified organic field bigger than 114 hectares and you're struggling with weed control in sunflower, or you know a neighbor who is, reach out to us. We can help.